Sir Cummings also alleged the PM's girlfriend at the time, Carrie, had tried to influence government appointments, and Boris Johnson was reluctant to lock down in the autumn last year because COVID was, quote, only killing 80-year-olds. It was his first major interview since Cummings left the role as the PM's advisor last year. It's also the latest threat to Boris Johnson's leadership. Number 10 denies all of the allegations. What is it about Boris, however, that makes him rather Teflon? Let's speak to the author and journalist Tom Bauer, who's written the book Boris Johnson's biography entitled Boris Johnson the Gambler. Tom, good afternoon to you. I mean, let's just start with that obvious question. They used to call Tony Blair Teflon Tony. He's got nothing on Mr. Johnson, right?
Well, I think Boris Johnson has a lot of luck. Tony Blair had a lot of luck in the beginning too. He had lots of crises. I've written his biography as well of his government. And the first years were absolutely strewn with problems, and he overcame them for the simple reason that the Tory opposition was very weak. And the same now. Boris is surviving and successful because the Labour opposition is very weak. And on the other hand, I think there's a great difference between what people in London, the metropolitan clique, think and what people outside London.
Sure.
They don't care about Dominic Cummings. They don't care about the wallpaper saga. They just trust Boris because he's Boris.
Yeah.
And, you know, that is really the heart of this argument. They believe that he will deliver for them.
But there is a point, isn't there? We were giving a kind of cursory list of some of those areas, and of course you can make these lists, with, as you rightly alluded to, Tony Blair, lists of faux pas and problems and issues and where things have hit the fan, etc. And I was thinking of Northern Ireland, where very strong allegations that he lied over that. We got issues around the pingdemic, the test and trace, the entire Brexit agreement and the flaws within that, the Indian vet. I mean, the list sort of goes on, all within 24 months. And yet, if you look at opinion polls, he's still riding high.
Well, I think you've got to remember the public have a particular view that Theresa May was a catastrophe, Jeremy Corbyn was even worse, and Tony Blair didn't have that sort of problem. And Boris Johnson saved Britain from both a Corbyn government and got rid of Theresa May, and the country voted for Brexit.
Yeah.
Now, you're absolutely right. He has been through the last 24 months or since 19, the most dreadful period, obviously with COVID and with the EU negotiations. Now, in the EU negotiations, he signed a deal which he knew he couldn't stick to, but there was no other way of getting Brexit done. On COVID, I think Cummings has played an unbelievably disloyal role. I think he has behaved appallingly. But the point is that Boris brought him in because he got Brexit done and he won the election. But one of the few things that David Cameron said where he was right was that Dominic Cummings is a career psychopath.
Yeah.
I think clearly it's very damaging. I think the role of Carrie is really very problematic. I think the whole point about Boris is he is a gambler. He's been phenomenally lucky. As my book shows again and again, he gets over it. His great weakness now is that he has a very, very weak team in Downing Street. There's no political heavyweights. There's nobody there telling him, you can't do this or be careful about that. And when, for example, last night I was talking to people who are campaigning against this lobster bill, how can you kill and eat lobsters humanely? Well, there's a revolt amongst Tory bigwigs against this bill. But the point is that Boris didn't consider the complications when he approved it. And it was all obviously pushed through by Carrie, this animal sentiment. It's pushed through by the Goldsmith brothers, who have a vested interest in environmental issues. But it's causing problems for Boris. And he doesn't have in Downing Street a problem solver. And that was Tony Blair's great strength. He not only had the dreadful Alistair Campbell, he had Peter Mandelson, he had a group of people there who were tough, politically savvy people who knew how to anticipate problems and then how to head them off. Now, obviously, they were very often unsuccessful, but Boris doesn't even start at that point. And that's where I think his government is in great danger. But his good fortune is that the public is still behind him. It's sunny. COVID, although a terrible problem, could well recede. He's taken a great gamble that it will recede by September. And there are no elections for at least 2 years. So he can carry on, and the economy may well turn, and he may well survive.
And this sort of multi-dimensional character, he's a high intellect to some, he's a clown to others, works rather well for him, doesn't it? Because people can almost buffet-like kind of pick the bit of Boris they like. I mean, this is the only man, when mayor, that can hang by his pants from a zip wire and go up in the opinion polls. This is a guy that seems to have, back to the word Teflon again, I guess, but people do pick and choose the bit of Boris they like, and they make that work for them.
Well, you'd have to read my book to actually understand that a lot of the critics of Boris have got it completely wrong. They loathe Boris because they don't trust that he's a serious politician.
Sure.
People like Matthew Paris and all those people. And really, the point about Boris, he is very serious. If you go through his career, he performed well as mayor. He performed well as an MP, sometimes not, but obviously a great journalist. But the point about him is he appeals to the common man. They don't think that he is fundamentally not on their side. They think he is on their side.
True.
And that is why he won the Red Wall,
yep.
And why on the whole outside London, people still support him. But you are right about one major issue about Boris, that he is in danger. He's in danger that once life becomes normal, and if Starmer recovers and learns how to put questions and how to make an argument properly, which I don't think he will be able to, and if he did, then Boris will be in danger, except for one major asset in his favour. There is no Tory MP in the House of Commons at the moment who is in anywhere close to toppling Boris. There is no alternative at the moment to Boris, either within the Tory party or within the country. And so if you look at his life, you look at his life where he's been so lucky, he will take repeated gambles, and in a year's time may well come out of it looking pretty good.
Yeah. Is he honest?
No, of course he's not. He lies. He lies about his private life. He does lie. But, Tony Blair wasn't honest when he sent us to war, which has cost millions of lives. David Cameron wasn't honest about various things. Theresa May was certainly not honest about her EU deal that she was trying to get through the Commons. The point about Boris is he has been the subject of people saying he's a racist. Well, look at the cabinet today, that he has no attention to detail. Well, no one's complained that he's not working now or that he's lazy, as they said before. And they keep on saying he's a liar. Well, undoubtedly he's lied. There's no doubt about it. But then, as a very, very shrewd woman said somewhere in the North, he's a liar, he's an adulterer, he spends too much, doesn't understand the value of money, he's loose with his morals and with his tongue, just like me. And I think that's why he gets away with it.
I was going to say,
people identify with him.
Would you trust him, Tom? If you went on holiday, would you let Boris look after your house, or would you be worried your wheelie bins would be on eBay by the end of the week?
I don't think my wheelie bins, but it would be unbelievably dirty. I mean, he is a chaotic man, so I wouldn't let him have it without a 24-hour cleaner in the house to clean up behind him.
Yeah, and a Nest Cam system watching every move. Tom, thank you. Tom Bauer, the journalist and writer who wrote that book about Boris. It was titled Boris Johnson, the Gambler. And of course, Tom has an incredibly impressive pedigree of writing about huge, notable figures of our time, Blair and Branson being just two on the list.